All right, everybody, welcome back to part two of the All In podcast, episode 263. We promised you a part two because we are very lucky that my dear friend, Shervin Pishavar, was able to set up a very important historic interview for us today. None other than Prince Reza Pahlavi is here, and we have a limited amount of time with you, Reza. And may I call you Reza, or should I call you Prince Reza?
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your program.
It's great to have you. And this is a moment I think you've been waiting 47, close to 50 years for, which is we are at this moment in time looking at potentially the people of Iran being free. You left the country and when you were 17 years old to become a pilot. And now you are looking to help your people with a transition post this military activity, this operation, essentially a war that's going on right now that we all hope gets resolved quickly. I think people would love to know, what is your vision for Iran post this military action?
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. Before I get into that, I wanted to simply stress the importance of this intervention that to us was like a rescue mission. It was literally a humanitarian intervention to protect more lives that would otherwise be lost under this extremely brutal and repressive regime that, as you know, has massacred as of late tens of thousands of innocent and unarmed citizens. In order to equalize the playing field, this was a much needed intervention that a lot of Iranians asked for, and fortunately it did happen. But what's the next step? Where are we headed to? The most obvious question will be, once the regime collapses, how do we manage the transition? I've stepped in to lead this transition with the help of many of my compatriots from various sectors. We believe that a stable transition will lead to, A, address the immediate needs of the country, but then set the country on a path of redevelopment and reconstruction, which is, of course, something that we were always hoping for, that could not have happened under this corrupt mafia-like regime. Iran should have been, had it not been for the revolution, today's South Korea of the region. Instead, it has become the North Korea of the region. Why? Not because our people are not gifted or talented or capable, not because we lack natural resources. It's simply because of a corrupt, bad management and a regime that basically took our country hostage, used it as a launching pad to export an ideology, and that's why we are here today. A different Iran, a democratic, secular Iran, will first and foremost bring about the opportunities to our nation, but it will open Iran for business again. Iran is one of the most untapped economic opportunities of the 21st century, and it could tremendously change the shape of our world in terms of what would be beneficial to the Iranian people, of course, but also from the vantage point of a country like the United States and billions of dollars that will be generated as a result of doing business in Iran. We figure about $1 trillion in the first 10 years to the US market, but also billions of dollars that will be invested into Iran and everything that we need to have done in order to rebuild our country. These are crazy opportunities that we can look forward to. And it all starts with moving towards this recovery and transition.
And when your father was in charge, it was a monarchy, turned into a dictatorship. And to be clear, the hope now is to evolve into a democracy with free elections for the people. Average age of people in Iran now, early 30s, 31, 32 years old. What would that look like? What is a possible timeline? And you have said on other programs and on your YouTube channel, which I suggest everybody go search for and follow right now because you're speaking directly to the people on X and on your YouTube channel. What is the condition on the ground from the people you're talking to? You said you've been talking to people in the military, civilians, and other leadership. They're ready to move on. What's the timeline? And what are they telling you is happening on the ground today as we sit here?
Well, I think that now the playing field has been equalized, meaning that the people could finally, of course, awaiting the end of this campaign, have a better opportunity to re-engage the streets and take over their homeland. Of course, part of the equation is how much implosion from within the regime and how much defections from the regime in the sense of joining with the people this time and not be an instrument that will halt the people's progress, but instead help the people in that transition, meaning whether people are in the military or security forces, as well as the civilian bureaucracy. Unlike what happened after the fall of Saddam Hussein and de-Baathification, the scenario of change in Iran is totally different. And let's not forget, Iran is a multiple century old nation state. It's a country that is extremely unified and united for this common purpose. Under this tent, we have diverse groups that are joining in this national campaign. People who are on the right, the center, the left, monarchists, Republicans, ethnic groups, religious groups. Every sector of society is engaged. I've had tremendous amount of support coming from inside Iran. We have the support of the intelligentsia. We have the support of universities. We have the support of the working class. We have the support of the diaspora that can bring a lot to this equation. I think this is a good recipe that will allow us to manage this transition, but set the country to clean up, be ready for business, and create the opportunities that will finally impact, first and foremost, Iranians who have been starving as a result of this regime's corruption, but have a true opportunity to get back on track and improve their livelihood. And I think it's also good for those who partner with us in this process, because there's a lot to be done that will be win-win, as opposed to be lose-lose to the benefit of this corrupt regime that has been the story of the past almost 5 decades. So the difference lies about this change and how crucial it is. And of course, the reason we want to have a secular democracy, the final form to be determined by the people of Iran through free elections and a constitutional process, but most importantly is that under equality and the rule of law, all the opportunities that has been denied our nation as a result of its discrimination, as a result of pretty much disenfranchising the majority of Iranians, now it creates a true opportunity. And as I said earlier, I think Iranians are quite gifted. As much as it is attractive to entrepreneurs in the outside world looking in, there are so many gifted and talented young Iranians who will have a fair chance this time, a true chance for being using all their creativity and genius to bring our country back online. This will be an excellent, fantastic partnership that we're looking forward to.
So you've spoken about wanting to be on the ground there. What conditions and what timeline do you have for yourself? And this seems like a pretty high-risk thing to do. It'd be pretty brave of you to go to the country now. What conditions have to be met for you to go to Iran, to go home for the first time in 47 years? And how close do you think we are to the people taking the streets now and for starting this transition?
Well, to be honest with you, it's very difficult to put an exact timeline. Factors that will expedite it is the level of separation from the regime, the level of defections, the strengthening of domestic organizations and structure. How can we partner with elements from within that are not joining this campaign? All of these are factors that will contribute to the rapidity of the transition. As far as myself being there, obviously there are security concerns to make sure that it's safe enough for me to go there. I'm no use to anyone if I'm dead. So obviously we have to keep that in mind. But I would like to be able to be there as soon as possible, to be able to help as much as I can in this process. Obviously, being in a country is an advantage. It's hard to do things from far away. I had no choice to be living in exile because of the circumstances. But I think that the opportunity is presenting itself. And the first opportunity that is created for me to safely return to Iran, I will obviously be there.
Just this morning, Trump said there will be no deal in Iran until unconditional surrender is given by whatever is left of the government there. What do you think of that condition? Is that the right move? Do you agree with Trump's ultimatum?
Well, let me look at it from the domestic prism. In order for a successful transition to occur, it has ultimately to be something that is legitimate in the eyes of the Iranian people. We haven't lost so many tens of thousands of lives just to settle for a continuity of the remnants of this regime. That will not fly. People will want to have a clean break. The alternative will be for all those who align with the secular democratic alternative. And there are some 4 core principles that whoever adheres to that, including people who may today peel away from the regime, would be able to agree to work together on that platform. The first and foremost issue is, of course, Iran's territorial integrity. That's an issue that is very close to the hearts of millions of Iranians representing every aspect of our diversified country in terms of ethnicities, religions, and what have you. But we find ourselves in this united cause under one flag and under one nation. The second element that is a prerequisite to democracy is a clear separation of religion from state. That's a critical element for a democracy to occur. Equality of all citizens under the law, and the rule of law obviously is a critical aspect that guarantees all of the rights we're talking about. And the democratic process itself, meaning the fact that people can elect their representatives to go to this constitutional assembly to debate the issues of what the next system could look like and what its laws should be, ratified by the people, which will bring us to the election of the first parliament of this new democracy, and of course the election of the first government of such democracy, at which point the transitional government hands over power to the elected representative of the people in the future government. That's pretty much the direction that we hope to manage this transition. And I'm playing a role in bringing about this transition with a very well-crafted plan that is in detail explaining, particularly focusing on the first 100 days. I created an organization called IPP, which is Iran Prosperity Project, but its first focus is the first 100 days, how we immediately stabilize the situation in Iran, how can we maximize the remaining elements that will join with us to be able to survive regime change and have a place in the future. These are the first components, and then we move forward with the plan.
Two quick questions. Under no circumstances would that be a monarchy? I think is a question everybody has for you because you're the prince. This is a democracy. We don't have princes in democracies. And then number two, what do you ideally see as your role in the transition? And then would you like to have the opportunity to run for president and to lead the country out of this horrific nightmare of 47 years?
My focus is on the process, not the outcome. And as a neutral arbiter, I'm not taking sides with one form versus the other. That's for the people of Iran to choose. And I think the world has seen successful models in both a republican system and a monarchic system. Examples, a republic that you have like in India or like in Israel or in France or the United States, they're not exactly the same, but that's under the republican structure. In terms of parliamentary monarchies, we have the example of Japan, Sweden, Spain, other countries. So I don't think that necessarily you can equate democracy with one outcome in particular. It could be both models that people can emulate. So at the end of the day, again, it's not for me to choose the outcome. I'm here to be a bridge towards that outcome. That's the function of a transitional leader, not to run for office or not to have an aim for personal position of power or authority, but to be the element that unites the country towards a common purpose and allow the nation to decide what is their preferred system. That's what elections and free elections should be all about. And the ballot box is the only means to measure people's opinion, and the majority will decide on that. And that's the process that I envisage to bring about.
What do you believe the people of Iran want? And in that monarchy subset, there are the Gulf monarchies, the kingdom, UAE, Qatar. They are obviously distinctly different than a parliamentary, system. So I assume you wouldn't want to see that. What do you think the people of Iran will vote for?
Well, just what you said. I mean, a democratic system clearly outlines how it should be and how it should not. If you want to look at the closest monarchy to the United States, technically speaking, is Canada. And if you want to look at it that way, and I think Canadians are quite happy with the democracy that they enjoy. And again, we have very good models of republic. Case in point, the United States. At the end of the day, as I said, it's for the Iranian people to determine what would be in their best interest, having looked this time, unlike what happened, by the way, 50 years ago. Nobody had a clear idea what Khomeini was suggesting in terms of this velayat faqih, as they call it, or the tutelage of the supreme leader. By the time he took over and power was established, it was too late. And since then, we've been hostages to this regime. This time, in full transparency, the Iranian people ought to have a clear idea of different models presented to them. And on that basis, having understood every aspect of what it could be, then they make their choice. This is a process that should be totally transparent, with enough time for debating different ideas. And again, as I said, let the democratic process unfold and let the people vote in majority what is their final choice. I'm not here to determine an outcome. Again, I stress my role here is to manage this transition and create an opportunity that people have been deprived of for half a century to finally have a say as to what they would like to have for themselves in terms of sovereignty and determining their own future democratically.
Final question, and I'll get into a bunch of details with you, Shervin, as to the plan, which I know you're helping construct, and I'm assuming you'll help execute on. Trump says he's going to pick the next leader. Trump says a lot of things. He says them sometimes in a provocative way, but he said he's not sure how you would play within your own country. There's obviously people holding up your picture. There are people who are maybe vying to take control of this from the previous administration. Are you in touch with President Trump? And what's your relationship with him today? What's your best plea to him or your argument to him to work with you?
Look, there's nothing hidden in the agenda. Everything is transparent, and I've been communicating with the administration via Steve Witkoff, who announced it publicly. That was our channel to President Trump. And of course, on the other side, in the legislation with members of Congress, senators, and congresspeople, to understand a little bit from the American prism what it is that we are proposing here. I don't think that President Trump or any other leader in this world would presume that it is up to them to determine who should be the next leader in Iran. I'm sure as democracies, they respect the right for people to make that choice. And as Western democracies, it should be going without saying that they would believe that the right to choose the future leaders is only up to the Iranian people. If the intention is to assist that process, if the intent is to support the Iranian people in their democratic aspiration, you provide them with the help, but the choice should be theirs. That has been my position, and I don't think there's a disagreement on that, whether it is with President Trump or other world leaders that I've also talked to about this matter.
As I let you go, what should the American people know about the spirit, the culture, and the people of Iran, including the people who fled in 1979, like you and your family?
Well, I know many Americans who have many Iranian friends. As a matter of fact, if you just look at the Iranian diaspora in the United States alone, you will see how much interaction there is between Iranians who are now Iranian Americans, if you will, many of them, and the kind of relationship they have built with their American counterpart. Many people have connections via marriages. Many people have connections through business affiliations. Many people have worked with Iranians. Many of the high-tech companies, including Silicon Valley, employ so many Iranians,
yes,
or they are themselves entrepreneurs. This is the kind of potential, and I'm sure Shervin will talk to you more about that, but this is the kind of connections there is. And for Americans that have traveled to Iran or have known Iranians all these years, they know what country it represents, what amount of culture, arts, civilization in a true sense Iranians represent. And they've been completely suffocated under this regime. But once Iran is free from its shackles, I'm sure a lot of Americans know what difference there is between an Iran that wants to be friends with America, that is not the regime that has from its inception called death to America or death to Israel, for instance. But there are Iranians who actually love to America. Let me just give you a last parting thought, because I think every now and then I need to remind your audience and other audiences. We talked about other countries in the region. Remember 9/11?
Yes.
And how many people on the streets of many of the so-called allies of the United States were celebrating that attack on that sinister day? The only country in the entire world, in the entire region, that actually stood in candlelight vigils in sympathy to the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attacks were no other than the Iranian people themselves, holding candlelight vigils in Iran. And they've been messaging America for years now. We are not your enemies. In fact, they've been chanting slogans in Iran saying, they lie to us, it's America. Our enemy is right here. This is the Iran I'm talking about. This is the people I'm talking about. And I know many Americans, both in the civilian sector, including military forces in America, know that. And I think that's something that I'm sure I'm not the only one, talking about this. You will hear from other Iranians who will pretty much confirm what I just said. That's why this partnership is so vital for us, because together we'll be able to rebuild, a different world. Iran will bring an element of stability to the region and beyond, and that can only play to the interest of America itself. We need to have this vital partnership, and I think we'll be able to succeed because I see everybody now is very much committed to work together towards bringing this agenda forward.
Well, we're all praying for the people of Iran to have a democracy, and what an amazing moment it will be when you get to return in whatever capacity and help this transition. And 93 million people who have been suffering will be living free in a democracy, and the impact that could have on the world. And obviously that region would be by far the largest democracy in the Middle East. And this could have ramifications in terms of humanity that would be absolutely stunning and beautiful, and the prosperity would be amazing. The Iranian people I met in my life, Prince, when I was living in Los Angeles, all of these great Persians I would meet were some of the most joyful and industrious, beautiful individuals I've met. They remind me of my Greek and Irish heritage, including you, Shervin. So, Prince Reza, thank you so much for your time. I know you're extremely busy. It's very important for the All-In audience to hear from you and to understand what's going on in your vision. And we would love to have you back when you're on the ground with your people and that your people are free.
Thank you again. Looking forward to it.
All right, Shervin, thank you so much for setting this up.
Of course.
I ask for very few favors from my friends, but as a good friend, you made this happen for the All-In community. So I thank you for that. And as I said to the Prince, the people and the Persians here in the United States, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your story and what this means to you. And then we can get into your involvement here and what you hope to see in those first 100 days.
Of course. First of all, Jason, thank you for opening up this tremendous platform to the Iranian people and to the Prince. As you can see, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is a great man, the most courageous man that I've ever met. And he's the highest integrity human I've met as well. We're very blessed as a people to have a leader like him, who has lived a very clean life, and has stepped up in a very courageous way. He's put it all on the line for his people and his legacy, to play this tremendous transitional role to evolve the Iranian nation to a democracy. And this long nightmare of 47 years that all of my Iranian brothers and sisters have suffered through is almost over. And also tremendous gratitude to President Trump for his courageous leadership on this matter. I don't think any other president would have the courage and the principle and the values to take on this Islamic regime of terror. As you saw last month, they massacred over 43,000 Iranians who were just peacefully protesting. They gunned them down with anti-material bullets. I put a post of a Coca-Cola can next to these bullets. It was bigger than the can. That's what. And
this is super important to meditate on for a second here. This regime is a murderous and evil regime. To turn those guns and mow down over 40,000 individuals peacefully protesting is just an act of savagery and brutality that I think most people don't appreciate and or don't fully appreciate. And there hasn't been enough coverage of that fact.
No.
And you are a bipartisan type person. I've known you for many years. You were a super funder of Obama. He wasn't able to get this done. Biden wasn't able to get this done. Bush wasn't able to get this done. This has been something that presidents have struggled with. And you got to give Trump credit here. There's a lot of debate over why this is happening. Is it Israel driving it? Is it the relationship with China? We talked about that in part one. At the end of the day, as a son of Iran, what matters is that the people are free. All these other conspiracy theories and motivations do not matter to you or the people, yeah?
Absolutely not. But one of my key principles is our moral security presages our physical security. So this has as much to do with Americans' security as it does Iranians' security and livelihood. As you saw, this regime is not only evil enough to mow down 43,000 innocent people in 48 hours, their reaction to this liberation operation is to attack over 12 countries in the region. Imagine if they had a nuclear bomb, they would use it. They would use it. There's not even a doubt in my mind that they would have used it by now if they had it. So this is incredibly important for America's national security. As the Prince mentioned, 9/11 happened. That's the same kind of ideology, except the problem we have in our modern time is that basically criminal and terrorist organizations have taken over sovereign nations with nuclear bombs or seeking nuclear bombs, wherever you have Russia, China, you have North Korea, and you have Iran, and then you have Venezuela. So the president has not only gotten rid of the Maduro in Venezuela, he has now begun this process of dismantling this Islamic regime, who is absolutely not a legitimate government and not a legitimate nation state, and the only leader that is legitimate to lead us to a transition process to become a democracy is the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. We are very lucky, I think, in our modern times to have three leaders who are living at the same time and leading at the same time as President Trump, President Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, all in this one moment in time. I think we're living in biblical times. When 10/7 happened, I started the Israeli-Iranian Alliance with Michael Eisenberg, Michael Berkheim, Justin Mateen, Sean Rad, and we started to host these salons with the Crown Prince. One was in New York. Michael Eisenberg flew in, Dan Loeb, lots of leaders came. And that was the beginning of the process that was seeded with a breakfast with Michael Eisenberg as a VC and the #1 VC in Israel 15 years ago, where we said we have to do more between Israeli and Jewish community and the Persian Iranian community. And someday we're going to have tea in Tehran. And we wrote an op-ed last year about this. And we began to build these bridges. And this connection between the Jewish people and the Iranian people goes back 2,500 years. Cyrus the Great, who's in the Bible, freed the Jews from slavery in Babylon, returned them to their homeland in Jerusalem, and rebuilt their temple. And that he is celebrated for that courageous act in the Bible and in Jewish religious holidays. And it is a tremendous connection that goes back now 2,500 years later in kind of biblical symmetry. You have the Jewish people helping free the Iranian people from their slavery. And at the same time, there is a connection between America's beginning that many people don't know, is that Thomas Jefferson was a student of Cyrus the Great, who declared the first Declaration of Human Rights. And a lot of the principles that went into the Declaration of Independence of America and the founding of America and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution have its roots in Cyrus the Great and Persian history. And so this connection between America's founding and the principles that Iranians espoused for 2,500 years is this beautiful connection between the Jewish people, the American people, and the Iranian people.
And this could have such a tremendous impact on the region. You have essentially a lone democracy in Israel, and now to have 93 million Iranians in a democracy, if that can be achieved, and listen, there's a long way to go, this could spiral out of control. This was a very high-risk move by Trump, President Trump. So you give him a lot of credit for that, but he has to own this. So let's be humble, and we got to pray for the best here. Things can spiral out of control in these kind of situations. But let's hope that we do get to democracy there. I'm curious, Shervin, you've spent a lot of time in the Middle East. I have, over the last 3 years, gotten myself educated and caught up, I hope, and have started doing business there and really meeting a larger swath of people. The Gulf monarchies have modernized incredibly, starting with the UAE, Saudi, now the Kingdom, and of course, Qatar as well, modernizing Oman, Kuwait. What would Iran going straight to a democracy, if that is even possible, what would that do to the region in your mind?
I think that what the Gulf countries have done is a tremendous case study of what the potential for the Middle East truly is. Being blessed by God to have oil, gas, the way the most GCC countries have, and Iran so has, gives them an advantage to be able to have the resources independently to develop themselves. And when you look at what happened in UAE over the last 25 years, I went to UAE in 2001, 2002, and there was a smattering of buildings there.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of Dubai then and now.
It's incredible.
Extraordinary. Yeah.
It's incredible. And it reminds me of what America was like in the 1950s when they came back from World War II. Eisenhower built the interstate highway system, and America developed into this superpower. And in many ways, the GCC countries espoused that American mentality of everything is possible, anything is possible, and they've manifested their greatness. And you look at Iran, you have 93 million unbelievably brilliant people who have been held back. You look at the Iranian diaspora in America, just our fellow friends who you know, Dara Shai at Uber, myself at Uber, of course, Omid Kordestani at Google.
Yes.
Ali at Databricks, Pierre Omidyar at eBay. When you add up the numbers, it gets to trillions of dollars of value have been created by this small population of Iranians in America, and especially in Silicon Valley. And I've been blessed to be part of that circle. And, one, thank God for America that we had a safe sanctuary to come and develop our brilliance. But there's as many brilliant Iranians, way more brilliant Iranians.
Yeah, on a numbers basis, it's a magnitude more.
And so this will be a free democratic Iran will be the greatest peace dividend and economic dividend to be gifted to the world and to the region. So I think what will happen is we will have an acceleration of the Middle East becoming this unbelievable a place where innovation and investment in the future is happening. We're at the dawn of AGI and advanced superintelligence. We have quantum computing, which you and I, and Emil Michael and others have done with our SPAC and D-Wave. These technologies are going to fast forward humanity and being able to tap into the resources of the Middle East and Iran in human capital and in the oil and gas wealth to be able to unleash an accelerated future is something that we all look forward to. And one of the things the team, the Crown Prince's vision, this is a 175-page report right here, the Iran Prosperity Project. And I'm blessed to be an advisor there with many other very talented Iranians. And this piece by piece, month by month, has a sequence of plans to rebuild Iran, as the Crown Prince was talking about, so that when there is a free Iran, there will be a 4-month process to get to a referendum, and then a 6-month process to assemble Iranians to write a constitution, and then a 14-month process to actually finalize the constitution, and then have a vote on the constitution. So you'll have a sequence of events that will then lead to a legal framework where the new Iran will be able to actually execute on this tremendous plan and rebuild all aspects and all sectors of the economy, and that'll lead to this new Iran that we're all have been dreaming and praying for.
And so this plan's been worked on for some time. He seems like he's got a third or so of the constituents there who are in favor of him. There are some people who are strongly opposed. Last time, his father was not perfect. He's answered many of the hard questions about his father's tenure. What are the chances that the existing regime, what's left of it, there are people in that who would collaborate on moving to a democracy where specifically religion and the government were separated? This was something MBS was able to do in Saudi, but not without strong resistance and great risk to himself. This is a high-risk thing, with some of these radicalized individuals who want religion to rule over democracy. So maybe you can unpack that a bit.
Absolutely. The vast majority of Iranians want a separation of church and state, of mosque and state. And we've seen what 47, we've had an A/B test in Silicon Valley speak of what happens when you have a system that is controlled by mullahs. It has led to absolute disaster and mayhem and evil. So the vast majority are out there, and they're saying Reza Pahlavi's name. If you look at the videos from January, they're saying Javid Shah, they're saying his name to return. He called on them to come in the streets at 8 p.m. on the 8th and 9th, and they came out in droves and by the millions in response to him. So the idea that we don't know who the Iranian people want to help lead this transition process, the proof is in the pudding. You just have to look at the videos and look at the actual facts. He's the only leader that Iranians are by name calling out for to come back, and they're also calling for Trump and Netanyahu to please help save them from this terror regime. And as we've seen in the last week, their prayers have been answered in a tremendous way. And what is going to happen is basically a dismantling and a defanging of this regime's capabilities to use terror, to use their military capabilities. And we have to let that run its course. As the president said, this is probably about 4 weeks of work. There was a leak, I think, in the Washington Post today that the 82nd Airborne was activated. And that's a signal that this is going to potentially lead to even more support in this liberation operation to completely dismantle this regime. Defections are a big part of the strategy.
Have the defections started yet, or is that too risky for the individuals on the ground? What are you hearing through your back channels?
Well, the Crown Prince had a system for people to communicate securely with him and his team, and over 50,000 people in the military have actually responded to that. You saw some defections that went viral during the protests and before the protests of different military members. We expect that as the dismantling process continues, and many of the, as you saw, the top leadership of the IRGC was eradicated in the first 24 hours. The supreme leader Khamenei was just an absolutely evil man. Was gone in the first 60 seconds. He spent 47 years threatening the world. He lasted 60 seconds. Yeah, and that's going to continue. And so I think it's going to be a very rational thing for the rest of who remains to realize that if they don't actually have a complete surrender and capitulate, and for the ones that haven't actually executed the orders of genocide against the Iranian people, there'll be an opportunity for people to actually be a part of the reformation and the reconstruction of Iran. The plan actually says even people in the military will be able to, one, either have early retirement for the ones that didn't actually execute those acts of terror against the Iranian people, and then others who are talented and have the ability to serve and want to serve, they'll also be able to show up at work and continue to get paid and have some role, whether in the military and the government. So this isn't going to be a hunting down of people. The hunting down is happening right now. There'll be a process of peace and reconstruction and rehabilitation that'll happen. And we're going to also need to have a lot of specialists to come in and help people with the trauma that they've been through.
Sure.
47 years. This is be a multi-threaded,
multi-generation trauma. Yeah.
Multi-generational. Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about the Kurds being backed. Mossad and the CIA are backing reportedly militias in the West, and that's going to play a role. Yeah.
I think we have to be very, very careful, because a red line for the Iranian people is we have existed as a country for 5,000 years, as a people for 5,000 years. Wherever invaders came in or out, we always outlasted our invaders. These people who had taken over for 47 years were occupiers. They weren't really truly Iranians. They were occupiers of this country. And they'll be booted just like Genghis Khan and everyone else who came into Iran were booted. And so it's very important. If there's any kind of separatist movement, we will lose the goodwill and the support of millions and millions of Iranians. And so
it has to be one country united.
It has to be one country. The territorial integrity of Iran must be protected. That's a red line for the Crown Prince. It's a red line for the Iranian people. And so that's incredibly important to project that. Whether there's collaborations that can happen to be able to work together to fight for the liberation to be completed and for a march on to Tehran and the Crown Prince being able to come back to lead this transition and physically come back to his homeland. You imagine that after 47 years of being away from his nation, me being away from my...
You've never been able to go back, or have you snuck in and
I hadn't been back for, basically I was born in 1976. My dad, the last Shah, was sending a lot of the top brilliant people on scholarships around the world. The Iranian community in graduate school and universities was the largest population in the 1970s. He was educating this whole class of people, and we were going back to rebuild and build Iran into this great nation. We're at the cusp of greatness. So my father came to Washington, D.C., where I am right now, and I grew up here on 16th Street in Washington, and he got his master's degree at Catholic University, 1976 to 1978. And I remember when we first came, it was a bicentennial of America. Now,
1976,
250th anniversary. Yeah. And so we returned to Iran in 1978, right before the revolution, really bad timing. And my dad had been promoted to head of radio and television for the Shah. And this all happened. The revolution happened. Khomeini was coming back. And my dad made the courageous decision to help the U.S. Embassy get radio communications devices to them, do foreign language broadcasts to tell foreigners in Iran how to get out of the country. This was from the different embassies. And Khomeini and Khamenei put my father, Abraham, on the execution list. So he went into hiding for 10 months. I didn't see my dad for 10 months. And in kind of a kismet moment, as someone he helped get a job in radio and television, came to our home and said to my mom, I want to help. And she didn't trust him and said, I don't know where he is, but she checked with my dad and they came back. My dad said, no, you can trust him. And that guy was the new head of security for the Mehrabad airport in Tehran. And he personally met my father. And I remember this moment, I woke up to my brother crying, and my dad was at the door after 10 months to say goodbye because he didn't know if he was going to survive. And he went to the airport, met his friend, and he walked him onto the Air France flight. And crying, he flew out and came to America. And the people he had helped him get his papers and everything in order.
Wow.
And then we were stuck in Iran for 2 years. Saddam invaded, bombs were falling on us every night, and the sirens were going off. So then we escaped with my mom and my brother and sister, came to America with $35. My dad was driving a taxi while getting his PhD.
A great paradox.
My mom was like, I did Uber. It actually
great irony.
Uber deal.
Fate loves irony.
That was one of the things at my first meeting with Jason, with Travis. I told him that story, and I know that, like, growing up in an orange and black taxi cab in Washington, D.C. helped me win the Uber deal against all the greats in venture.
Yeah.
So, it's all full circle. Only in America would that be possible. The son of a taxi driver and a maid, coming to America with nothing, be able to have the blessing of the life that we've had. And
fantastic.
At the same time, I've never forgotten those roots. I've tried to serve America, and I'm now helping in any way that I can to help the Crown Prince in this transition process for a free Iran and rebuild Iran into something great. So what's
extraordinary to me about the Iranian people is they have maintained, even under this oppression, that spirit. 47 years later, I don't know if you've ever seen the Anthony Bourdain episode when he goes there.
Yeah.
And it was always touched me. I don't know if this was like a decade ago when he did it. And he said, I can't believe it. These people are Americans. They're They're eating Pizza Hut. They're listening to music. They're having some beers on their back porch. They're dancing. They are on VPNs, understanding culture and what's going on around the world. Even under the oppression, women, gays, everybody in between, they're suffering, and they still have that joy of life that every Persian I've ever met will stay with you like the Greeks or the Irish, and they will close the restaurant. They will talk, and the restaurant closes the door. The owner of the restaurant sits down, and you just talk for another hour. Some of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And I'm so glad that you are engaged in this. Very much appreciate you bringing the Prince.
Thank you, Jason.
Here today.
You really understand the soul of the Iranian, and that is that we love to host our friends on the sofa, and there truly are, as American as you can be. We love our freedom. We've suffered for so long. And we're so thankful for President Trump having the courage to take on this evil regime, and we look forward to hosting All In Pod in Tehran.
That would be
sooner than later.
One of the great bucket lists of my life, to be able to go to Tehran and host the podcast there. Yeah. And have tea with you in Tehran. Let's put it on the schedule a year from today.
Best food in the world. I can't wait.
What's the signature? What's the signature for you? What's the signature dish? What's your favorite?
Everyone loves the Persian kebabs, right?
Sure.
But the kebabs in Iran are something else. There's it's a tremendous food culture. And the national dish is called ghormeh sabzi, which is a stew of lamb. And my mom was like the greatest Persian cook in the world, and she would cook it for 3 days. And these foods, I can't wait to break bread with you in a free
Incredible.
It'll be
that's one of the things the Greeks and the Iranians share is that love of lamb. Cannot wait. All right, my brother.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're engaged in this. Gives me hope. And good luck in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. Let's hope and pray for the best.
Thank you.
To the All In audience, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
We'll let your winners ride.
Rain Man David Sack.
And instead, we open source it to the fans, and they've just gone crazy with it.
Love you, West. Queen of Quinoa. Besties are back.
Code 13. That is my dog taking a notice in your driveway.
Oh, man.
My haberdasher will meet me at Clinton.
We should all just get a room and just have one big huge orgy because they're all just useless. It's like this sexual tension that they just need to release somehow.
Wet your beak. Wet your beak.
Your beak.
We need to get merch.
Besties are back.
I'm going all in.